What is decentralized finance? Why am I even more bullish than ever before, even though in DeFi there have been quite some struggles and challenges that we had to overcome? First, let me explain to you that I have essentially chosen a life that I would qualify as the crypto lifestyle. That means that over 95% of my wealth is on the blockchain. Most of it is in Bitcoin, but quite a good amount that I use for my daily cash flow is actually done with investments in decentralized finance. For those of you who don't know what decentralized finance is, it's essentially anything that you know from traditional finance that lets you make investments that is typically gate capped by unnecessary red tape, in my opinion, is open to use and access and enjoy with all the benefits and risks that come with it in DeFi. So it is definitely a way to equal the playing field and let everyone at an equal level have access to investment opportunities that would typically not be accessible to people who are not necessarily what we call rich and wealthy. In DeFi, if you want to participate in investment and you have $100, $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, whatever works for your budget, you can participate. And that is one reason why I love it so much. Now, a sub specialty of decentralized finance is what we call liquidity provisioning. And what that means is that we fund the market that others use to buy and sell crypto around the clock. It's no different than when you go to the airport and you exchange your dollars for euros, for instance. There's a little bit of a margin on that exchange rate, and that margin goes to the operator of that business. So similarly, when we speak of decentralized exchanges in crypto, we have these pools, and these pools are pre-funded by people like you and me if we choose to be liquidity providers. And there are fees that occur from the transactions that happen within the pool, and those fees can be collected. Now, you can do that manually, or you can use platforms that kind of do it for you. And one of those platforms that I am actually using is called Paca, and I've been using them for quite a while. And what happened recently is that one of the pools that Paca was using to conduct business was exposed to quite an advanced hack, a hack nonetheless. It was not their fault, was not Paca's fault, but one investment that they were using was compromised, and they had to pause the platform to make sure that the business that they were running, yes, DeFi platforms are businesses, would not come to a complete halt. So you can think of this as, let's say, for example, you decide to invest in real estate with a group of friends, you create a business, you collect funds, and then you invest in different real estate projects. Let's say, for example, one of those projects is an Airbnb building, and for whatever reason, maybe there's a fire, there's some kind of emergency, and the income flow from that specific building gets interrupted. That's what happened to Paca, right? I was a liquidity provider, I was an investor in Paca. They were doing their business, and then something bad happened to one of the investments, and they had to pause the platform. So, this is essentially what has happened. And to essentially the point of this video is to express to you that rather than becoming nervous about this whole situation, I have become even more bullish than ever before. And I have prepared a presentation here that helps me explain to you why that is the case. So, without further ado, I invite you to go through that presentation with me. By the way, if you think that the way I communicate things makes sense to you and you want to stay in touch, go to the website crypto.lifestyle. The link is somewhere here around. And as a thank you, I actually show you exactly, I give you a 4-part video course that shows you exactly how I do everything to basically live this crypto lifestyle. All right, with that said, let's move forward. I named this presentation "The DeFi Hack Made Me More Bullish." So let's see what I came up with here and walk through this. So essentially, yeah, what I discuss in this video is definitely not considered financial advice. This is very important. You have to do your own research in the field of crypto and DeFi, and also investing in DeFi poses significant risks to the point that you can lose everything. And case in point, that is literally what this presentation is about, is to discuss an aspect of DeFi that we call platform risk, meaning there is a level of risk that is not tied in the crypto, that is not tied in the economy. It's literally the platform that you choose to use to conduct your investment poses a risk in itself. Now, the reason why I have regained confidence in this specific platform called Paca.finance is because I think personally that this whole situation where they were exposed to a third party weakness led to them pausing their platform. To me, that is actually a proof of legitimacy. Let me explain you why. Very often, when I explain to people that within DeFi you can make anywhere between 80 and sometimes up to thousands of percentages APR, and I explain the business model, then people tell me this has to be a Ponzi scheme. This just has to be a Ponzi scheme. And for those of you who don't know what a Ponzi scheme is, it's essentially, it means that people have to keep paying money into the system so that new investors can get those high outcomes, right? The high yield. With Paca having to pause their platform because of their income stream being interrupted, that literally is proof that it was not a was and is not a Ponzi scheme. And then I have to say, I really, as a businessman myself, I really value entrepreneurial resilience. I don't know if any of you have been businessmen and women, or maybe are. If that is the case, you know exactly that business is never linear and always upward. Sometimes it gets dicey, sometimes you have to walk on thin ice, and things often feel like you want to give up. And I'm sure the team behind Paca felt like that as well. However, they dusted themselves off and they decided to move forward, and that to me is a sign of entrepreneurial resilience. So I really like that. Next, I really love when in a field where no transparency is needed, because in DeFi, one of the great things in DeFi, honestly, is that a lot of it can happen completely without revealing your identity. That's why you often deal with nicknames and with avatars in this field. But the main leaders of the Paca platform decided to show their face. We call that in this environment being doxxed, right? So yesterday, or I think a few days ago, they had a live YouTube feed called an AMA, and Ask Me Anything. And on that feed, on that stream, they showed their face. And that to me is highly valuable because it just shows that these people stand for what they believe and they consider what they do as their main business. And there is no reason to hide if you feel like what you're doing is legitimate. So that is very important for me as well. So let's see. they have, in my opinion, a sustainable business because it is a legitimate revenue model. What they do is essentially collecting fees based on market transactions. I think that any business is responsible when they pause their operations to save the business. That to me is also a sign of legitimacy. And then, of course, in this case, there was an external disruption. Again, not their fault. They were using a DEX, a decentralized exchange, that collapsed. And well, it didn't collapse, it actually got hacked, and they had to basically pause their operations for that time. And I really don't think that the pause was terribly long. I think all in all, give or take, it took a month to bring everything up to speed. And that to me is really remarkable and just reinforces my belief in what decentralized finance can do for everyone. It's very powerful. What is actually entrepreneurial resilience then? It is when you are facing a challenge and you adapt and you grow from that and then you innovate. And to me, anyone who is interested in investing in decentralized finance has to consider themselves a pioneer. I'm sorry, there's no other way to say it. If you are invested in some form or fashion in DeFi, you are a pioneer. And when you are a pioneer, you have high risk, but you also have very high opportunity. Opportunities that can be nowhere found anywhere else. Where do you find anywhere between 80 and thousands of percentages APR annually in traditional finance? You don't, right? Because there are so many fail safes built in that essentially all the fun and all the power has been taken out of it, right? So we still are in a time where we have the choice, and who knows how long we do have the choice, because I can tell you that the powers that be, that the big banks and the big financial institutions, they don't want the individual person to have access at this. Under the guise of protecting us from making mistakes, they will be very invested in taking all of that away from us in the coming years. And I just hope that they will fail at that mission. So, again, what is transparent leadership? And the reason I'm bringing that up here is because whenever you evaluate one of the many DeFi projects out there, these are the steps of due diligence you need to conduct to decide whether there is transparent leadership or not. And that includes, do they have public ask me anythings? Do they face their community questions directly? Is it their main business? Or is it just a pet project for them? Or are they themselves primarily invested in this thing so that they can pay for their bills? Just like I, for example, I am fully dedicated in a business that I founded just recently called Crypto Alliance. I founded it with my partner in business and life, Andrea, and also with John Lee, who is my mentor and business partner as well. So this is something that pays my bills right now. And that also is my primary focus. If you want to know what I specifically do and how all of that works, again, go to crypto.lifestyle. It's a landing page. You can give me your information. And then as a thank you, you get access to a 4-part video series that explains exactly what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and how you may be able to also start. Accountability is very important. There's another platform that I love using, it's called DexFi, and they were basically exposed to something similar where a hacker just exploited a vulnerability within the code they had written. And yeah, they now have a choice, right? Say, I'm sorry for the money that you've lost, or will make you whole. And they are indeed making everybody whole. I was a big investor in their system, and they have started paying me back for the money that I lost. And guess what? Rather than saying now, oh, I'm not going to use them anymore. I'm going to run away. I'm going to be hesitant and not invest in them anymore. To me, it just gives me even more reason to continue moving forward. So that's definitely also a platform that I value a lot, and that is part of my personal investment profile, if you will. Okay, so risk management then for you, you always have to research what it is that you are investing in. It's very important, not only in DeFi, it's just important in investing altogether. It's very important for you to diversify. What does that mean? It means if you have $10,000 to invest, ideally you pick 5 to 6 investments and then you spread your money across these investments. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket, because if that basket has a leak or a hole, all your eggs will fall out and break. And yeah, you know what that means. Trust me, I'm speaking from experience. I've done that in the past where I have put a lot of my eggs in the same basket. And then when the investment went south, it was very painful. Then, of course, yeah, protection is important. You got to know how to navigate this space safely. There's a lot to learn, there's a lot to know about. Again, I said this is a pioneering space, and the onus on staying up to date and informed is on you. And that's also part of what I'm doing, by the way. In my educational materials, you will definitely find that I have a lot of those elements available. So, what I am very impressed by is that the ecosystem, the SUI ecosystem and the CEDAS ecosystem and the decentralized finance ecosystem was very strong in its response. At the end of the day, I think you can safely say that within a month, everything was back up and running. So what happened? The hack did happen on CEDAS, which was the DAX that Paca was strongly using as one of their investment vehicles. And over $2.2 million were stolen through a hack, right? But then everybody really was on their feet. And at the end of the day, what the SUI Foundation decided to do is they decided to provide a secured loan to CEDAS so that all the funds that could not be recovered could still be reinstated for the users, for the community. And I think that was extremely powerful. That was a sign of confidence in the community, in the ecosystem, and also, of course, in CEDAS itself. Now, what I think was really cool was that the validators froze the hackers' addresses, right? And that was something that was a very bold move, because that is typically unheard of in this space, in the crypto space, because everything is trustless and permissionless, and because everything is about financial agency, and nobody should be able to freeze your funds. That is a complete no-go. That goes against all the ethos of crypto. However, the community, made a huge exception in this case because of illicit activity. It is nobody's business to hack anyone's money. And if you do that, I'm very pleased to see that in this case, the validators decided to freeze that address. I think that was the right move, and I hope it sets an example and a signal to hackers that this is not something that can continue in the future. It's not a way of making money. So in that way, yeah, there was also this was also a vote, of course, that passed by the community. And I really have to say, I'm very impressed by SUI and its larger ecosystem, SUI and CEDAS, because it just shows that they mean business and they are here to stick around. And that to me is very powerful. What is my last slide here? Next steps for you. Okay, what I have my 3 steps here. Assess your portfolio. Yeah, review your current DeFi investments if you have any. My guess is a lot of you won't even have any. If you want to get started, go to the landing page Crypto Lifestyle. I put the link somewhere around this video. optimize your allocation. Again, make sure you're not too heavily invested in just one project, and then staying informed is very important. All of these projects typically come with a Telegram channel where you can go in, and they typically are active around the clock. You can ask questions and see what's going on. One word of caution, unfortunately, in the world of Telegram, there are plenty of scammers. So you have to be very critical and skeptical in that world. So if you don't know, then just make sure you ask. You ask someone who knows. And typically that's the leaders of that Telegram channel. Also, you can ask me. You can always come to this video and ask me a question in the comments, because I'm literally walking this talk every day, and I have seen almost all of it in the good sense and the bad sense. Yeah, and I would really love if you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you thought this was at all helpful, and then also join at least my mailing list by accepting my gift, my 4-part video series that I called the Crypto Cashflow series. I show you exactly how I left a very busy and stressful, not job, because I haven't had a job in quite a while, but I was a very busy entrepreneur. I had a 7-figure business, and I basically replaced all of my income in crypto and DeFi. And if you are curious how I did that, you know what to do. Crypto.lifestyle is the page for you. All right, that's it for now. I'll see you in my next video. Thank you for educating yourselves. Bye bye for now.